Trussville's downtown road work is well underway, and Trussville City Schools Superintendent Dr. Pattie Neill is in the studio today to talk about reopening schools. I'm Brandon Dawkins, and Tribune Unscripted starts now. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Tribune Unscripted. I can't talk. We're a little bit late getting started today, but I'm here, as always, with Scott Buttram, who's publisher of the Trussville Tribune, and we're going to get things going today. Well, let's start with coronavirus numbers.
Yeah,
it's been interesting to look at because it's bounced all over the place, and one day we had over 1,700, but then it was down to like 900 and something, so it's really kind of all over the place.
It has been. One of the areas I've been watching has been the daily hospitalizations numbers, which were very high. Last week they had been very high for like the last 10 days. And when I say very high, they had been the highest currently hospitalized numbers that we have seen since this started.
Right.
Got a little bit of, not a little bit, got some really good news to report this morning. No deaths reported today, 0 deaths reported yesterday, 1 death reported the day before that, and I believe only 1 death reported the day before that. So at this point, of course, it could change today. The reports will still come in. But as of right now, 2 deaths in the last 4 days. That is the most encouraging thing I've seen. I don't know if our medical personnel are getting better at responding to this and treating people. I don't know all the answers behind it, but fewer people dying is a positive.
I did see an expert on one of the Sunday shows yesterday that said exactly that. Just the treatment is coming so far that we're starting to see that impact on the death rate for sure. So that is really good.
It is good, and this is going to be a part of who we are as a society for a little while, and we have a lot of things to work through. We're trying to look around, see around corners, and anticipate things. You mentioned we have Dr. Pattie Neill here from Trussville City Schools today. A lot of work has gone into planning this upcoming school year, and even a lot of great information came out last week, but as parents see it, they have different questions, and Dr. Neill wants to address those questions to the best of her ability and share as much as she can, because informed parents can do more to help their students, and that's where we're all trying to get the whole community right now.
And everybody's just kind of learning as we go. I mean, nobody's been here before, and I think that's an important thing to remember.
It is the great unknown. We've said that from the beginning.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. If you have been out in Trussville today at all, then you know that the major road work that's taking place in downtown, the intersection of Chalkville and Main Street, is well underway. And half the road is torn up, and that's going to be going on for a month. So, the major traffic changes in Trussville, but they're doing a good job of trying to, detours, and we have all those maps online at trussvilletribune.com. Erica had done a story that has a lot of great graphics in it.
It's, as you know, happening literally outside my office window. I've got a bird's eye view of all of this. I don't want to get too excited about today, because we know a lot of people took their July 4th on Friday. Others are taking it today. That could be affecting the traffic. But right now, this is the easiest detour of the biggest intersection in town that I've ever seen. There's no traffic backups. It's down to 2 lanes as you come through the intersection on Highway 11. You can't get there on Chalkville because they're going to detour you off before you get to that intersection. But today, it was very good. I don't know what it was like at rush hour. I didn't see it then. I imagine that it could have been kind of difficult.
I didn't see it then either.
But the payoff for this is what we've been anticipating since all the downtown redevelopment started. A lot of good things are coming out of this. They had to do major drainage work under the road before they could do the new sidewalks, the new paving, the new pedestrian ways. All that stuff had to have all the infrastructure done underneath the ground before that. So it's a big deal.
It is.
I don't know.
And one of the really important detours, this is like where your knowledge of Trussville comes in pretty handy. How long have you been here? How well do you know the roads outside of that intersection? But I use all the time the road that runs behind what was the old Hardee's. I think they call it like City Hall Drive and Railroad Avenue.
That's
detour.
Railroad.
That is a really handy road that I use a lot anyway, and that's one of them. Another one is kind of skirting through the Cava project. Please drive slowly if you do that. and Watterson Parkway that many of us use. Erica's got a
Yeah, we've
map
got the
up
detour
now.
up now. You can see it. You're right. For newcomers, some of these road names may not mean a lot.
Right.
But I'm just like you.
Good time to learn them.
There are certain times of day I'm going to avoid Chalkville Road.
Yes, me too.
And I have to go home to get on Chalkville Road. So, I use Parkway a lot as an alternative and come out at the light. I use your road. I use your sister's road to cut across. When I'm coming to the office, I want to come out on Parkway so I can turn into our parking lot.
Yes.
Everybody's got their own little, so I never come down Chalkville all the way to the intersection if I'm coming to the office. But the detour is on TrussvilleTribune.com. It was in the printed paper last week, Erica, correct? Erica? So we had it in the printed paper. We've got it available online at TrussvilleTribune.com. You can see the detour. You will probably find ways that are more comfortable for you depending on where you're going.
Absolutely.
But, everybody just needs to be patient, be calm, and
it's going to be worth the wait.
Yeah, keep your eye on the prize for sure.
Continue to look like. All right, the next story we want to talk about. There was a terrible shooting at River Chase Galleria on Friday that killed a child, an 8-year-old child. And several other people were hurt, and that was a terrible situation. The River Chase Galleria is, I believe, still currently closed. And the latest information in that story is that an arrest has been made. Yeah. And somebody's been charged with capital murder. We
now have Erica joining us, y'all. She was working on some technical things. She's been here all along, but we've now got her in. There was an arrest yesterday announced by the Hoover Police Department. This suspect, 22 years old, from Birmingham. His name is Montez Moses Miracle Coleman, 22 years old, of Birmingham. He was actually taken into custody immediately following the shooting. Hoover, everybody remembers I think it was E.J. Bradford's shooting death, and bad information was released by the police department, by the city of Hoover when that took place. So this obviously was handled very differently. They didn't want to repeat those mistakes. And they were slow to get information out, but they were being very deliberate. I don't fault them for that at all. This 22-year-old man was taken into custody immediately following the shooting. There are others involved that they are looking for. We have the surveillance photos of the other people they want to talk to. Evidently, they were all armed, or several of them were armed, and they were shooting at each other. 4 innocent bystanders were struck by bullets. As you mentioned, an 8-year-old child died. We need to mention that child's name because that's the most important part of the story is that we lost an 8-year-old child in all of this. His name was Royte DeMarco Giles. Royte DeMarco Giles, 8 years old. He was a student in the Bessemer City School System. We heard from Dr. Autumn Jeter, who spent a lot of time in the Trussville school system. She is now the superintendent for Bessemer City Schools, and her condolences to the family, and what a fine young man this was. And they're devastated to lose an 8-year-old. This should not be happening.
No, this is
and it is a horrible, horrible thing. Our prayers certainly are with the family of that child.
Definitely.
Have they said, I don't remember if they said, will anybody else face charges?
Well, they're still asking for information from the public. They want videos. They do believe there was more than one person shooting, so of course more charges are expected.
More charges are expected. And I don't know, at some point they've got to figure out where the bullets came from. If all these people had guns. Coleman is being held without bond. He has been charged with murder and 3 counts of assault.
Well, and the certain caliber of pistol that he was using made it quite obvious.
Yeah, that's
for
an assault.
Police.
That's an assault rifle in pistol form, is what that is.
Okay.
The police didn't come right out and say it, but I do think they called it a 5.5 millimeter or caliber. Yeah. But I looked it up, and that's basically an assault rifle.
Well, it's kind of like an AR in a pistol form.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Like it was in his backpack, so. Gun-free zone, the Galleria is a gun-free zone, but that doesn't stop people from bringing it in. No, and it's going to be the people who ignore that are the ones you worry about having a weapon. So still a long way to go on this, but just a horrible, horrible tragedy. And, this is going to start impacting traffic at the Hoover Galleria.
I was thinking about that.
Well, there's
too.
been one shooting every year for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You are going to see the impact on that on
There's been
business, for
homicides
sure.
in the parking lot. There have been, now 2 people have been killed inside the mall. There was a brawl 2 Christmas Eves ago
Yes.
in the Galleria. And I think in Trussville we have some of the same challenges that large retail centers are going to draw a lot of people from within your community and from without your community, surrounding communities. And every city that has large retail centers, one of their goals is to keep people safe when they visit their community. I know Hoover Police have been focused on this. I know the mayor and council have been focused on this. At some point, you probably just look around and go, what else can we do? And I don't know the answer to it, but it's not good for a city that relies heavily on retail sales tax, as Hoover does. And Hoover has been seeing a decline in those sales taxes for a number of years. So it's not good for the city.
Well, and I had read in the story that you posted too, just the mom saying that they were just standing outside waiting to get in children's place.
In front
and
of
her
the
8-year-old.
children's
It's just really incredible.
It's devastating.
It
I mean,
is.
as a parent, it just broke me.
Yeah.
There were pictures that I saw that I didn't post because they were so sensitive, but it really put that moment in my mind. Like, this is what it was like for that family. You can
cannot
see
imagine.
the people crouching down. And she said, they heard gunshots and they all hit the ground and they all stood up except for little Roy Tay. He didn't get up.
Right, he didn't. And,
So sad.
nobody needs to know that picture to understand that what it depicted was a broken family. Just shattered. Their lives were shattered.
In that moment.
It's just horrible for anybody to go through it.
Absolutely.
And I always feel stories when I write them and when I do things. I can tell you do too. So of course I have to do some positive news too, y'all.
Yes.
And I did last week. There was one that was amazing. It made me laugh and smile, and I hope it made a lot of other people smile. It was a routine call for Springville
that was really cute.
Police. I hope y'all noticed that.
Yeah,
Isn't
you
that
got it. Can you pull the picture? There they are. There are the
There it is.
pictures.
Okay, so Springville Police, a couple weeks ago, they responded to an alarm. Alarm went off and alerted police. And they got to this house, and look what they found.
It's incredible.
This is Rudy the kangaroo. Isn't that just adorable? So I have this story on TrussvilleTribune.com. This is Sergeant Brian Williams and Officer Tim Dyson that responded to this call. And the good news is it was a false alarm call.
Right.
The family was there. And hopefully they'll be talking to me later this week, because you can actually go to where they have these animals, and I think they have some sort of petting zoo or something. I'm trying to find out a little bit more about that.
I actually wondered a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you
but
could
this
domesticate
fella-
a kangaroo.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a girl, but she lives in the house with them. The husband got the kangaroo as a gift to the wife. And so I just thought that was way too cute to not share. We all need some positive in our lives sometimes, and that just had me bouncing for joy.
Well, I know Officer Williams very well. I've known Brian for years, and I promise you nobody had more fun on that call than Brian Williams did. He's a cut up anyway. So that was a great story.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing what
The
else you find
kangaroo
out
on
about.
the loose in
I know.
Springville, Alabama.
I'm excited. I want to go visit to do the story. I want to go to Springville. You can imagine why.
Yes.
Go-
Yeah, I mean,
go
who
with
doesn't
them.
want to go see the kangaroo?
If she goes when Main Street Bistro's open, she can bring us back a pizza from Scott.
She totally could.
She can take care of us.
Okay, well, we'll be back after the break with Dr. Pattie Neill with the Trussville City School Systems, and we're going to talk about several of the schools' plans in our area. We'll be back in a minute. Have you been to Discount Warehouse lately? New electronics, brand name makeup, and bedding arrive daily. Follow their Facebook page to find out about special sales on clothing, tools, and fireworks. Discount Warehouse, where you will never pay retail price.
ED should not stand for expensive drugs. Locally owned Mills Pharmacy is now offering a money-saving alternative to Viagra. It's called Sildenafil. Sildenafil is the active ingredient in Viagra. Mills Pharmacy is offering a huge cost savings on the 20-milligram tablet. Mills Pharmacy has options for less than $2 per pill. A prescription for Sildenafil is required, and in many cases, Mills Pharmacy can contact your doctor for you. Mills Pharmacy, 205-823-9500. Online at millspharmacies.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, everybody is talking about going back to school and what that looks like. Most of us are returning to school August 12th, and I think some of us expected to see a delay there, but we're not. We're going on back August 12th. We're going to start with St. Clair County today. Superintendent Mike Howard released some details on their plan to you last week. Yes. And they also have 3 options. There's traditional school that you're being offered, and there's virtual online school where you would, St. Clair County is unique because they've already had a virtual program before coronavirus. And if you choose that option, you enroll through their virtual online academy. I actually have a neighbor that teaches for that program, and so that's right. That's really interesting. And then they have a hybrid program, and I was kind of curious. He didn't give tons of details on their hybrid in the story, so I wasn't sure if they were just kind of still hashing that out. Or
they are still hashing out details. In fact, they've got a meeting this week with the administrators of the school systems, the separate school systems, and then they've also got a community meeting planned. Well, they'll hear from parents, they'll hear from community leaders, so they'll get all the details worked out for each individual school at a later date. But they just want people to know they do have a plan. They have a basic plan. You can check it out. TrussvilleTribune.com. We've got all 3 options posted there. I mean, this is all going to be a whole different kind of year, as we all know. But the main thing is these school leaders are keeping us so informed. Right. And I don't think they could do any better.
I don't either. I appreciated what he said to you in the story when he said, this could change 10 times before the quote doors open. Yes.
I mean, I think we're saying we're going to start back on time, but I mean, we really don't know, and they don't know. But all the school administrators can do is say, this is our plan. But when the governor comes out with a new order, or the health officer says we're going to, I mean, we very possibly will have to adjust. So parents have to keep that in mind and just be patient, because obviously St. Clair County schools, Jefferson County schools, and Trussville City schools, they're all doing everything they can to plan ahead and get everybody prepared. And we all know Trussville City Schools handled this like champs when it first happened.
Right, they did.
Out of nowhere, they just had a plan.
And we're going to talk about the Trussville City School plan that came out, I believe, Thursday night. We got our email. We also have 3 options in the Trussville City School system, and Scott's going to talk to Dr. Neill about that. I'm going to throw those out. We've got traditional school, we've got an online program we can enroll in, and we've got Husky Online Plus, I believe it's called, where you do the majority of your work online, but you can go in small groups for enrichment type programs. Oh, yes. So we also have several options. So we're going to toss that to Scott and let he and Dr. Neill talk about what this year is going to look like.
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you, Dr. Pattie Neill, for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I know you don't have anything better to do with your time right now. Everything's so calm at the schools, and I guess it's just kind of running itself, isn't it?
Well, we've been on a mad dash to get a good plan out based on a lot of parent input, a survey that took place in June, and comments that came in after the survey, and we put it all together to try to please everybody.
Let me ask you about that survey. I had not thought of it until you were talking about it, but I do remember reading probably 2 weeks ago that the Hoover City School Survey, and this caught me off guard, their parent survey was 50-50 on the number, on the parents that would send their students back and the parents that preferred online school. Do you remember off the top of your head about what the breakdown was in Trussville?
20% online and 80% face-to-face.
Oh, okay. And that's probably a little higher than we expected for the face-to-face. What we're looking at, maybe anticipating maybe 70%. Did I dream that, or did I hear that somewhere?
The State Department of Education did a random survey for other Alabama school districts, and Trussville was not included in their random survey. But the state survey was about 80% face-to-face and 20% online as well.
So we kind of followed suit here in Trussville on that. Before we get into this, I posted this on social media last week, and I'm glad you're here because I want to be able to say it to you. I was very concerned as a parent that the state, Dr. Mackey, was taking so long to make things public about what the roadmap would look like going into the school year. What was very apparent to me is that Trussville City Schools were not sitting around waiting on the state for guidance. That plan that was released Thursday night was so detailed and so well planned out. I want to tell you how much I appreciate as a parent the work and effort that went into that. And I also mentioned on social media, this is one parent who's going to try to be very positive in front of my student because I want her to come in with a positive attitude. And I think we control a lot of that at home. Do you agree with that?
Well, I do, and we had taken those parent comments, and we received individual emails from across Trussville, and we took all of that into consideration while the state was releasing their roadmap. So as soon as we got the roadmap, and that was right after Father's Day, and there was a superintendent's conference during that week, and I could tell from the roadmap that what we had in our template was going to work perfectly.
Okay. So we won't rehash all three options in great detail because you actually released the video. It's been available at the Trussville City Schools website. It's also been available at the Trussville Tribune website, embedded in stories. It's out there in a lot of places, so I won't ask you to go through all of that. But can we briefly describe the options A, B, and C for our readers?
Sure. Option A is traditional face-to-face school as we have known it before. Option B is called the Husky Academy, and that is the virtual online program that has actually been purchased by the state. And then option C is the Husky Academy Plus, and that's the one that's creative based on parent comments, that they wanted a virtual option, but they also wanted to come into school for certain electives, for enrichment, for remediation if their child needed help, for intervention if they hit a stumbling block in some of their online courses. And we have found a way to do that. And the grades 1 through 5, option C, are not graded. But a good example of option C for grades 6 through 12 is band.
Okay.
Now you can take music online, but if you want to join choir or band and you want virtual, you would choose option C. If you want choir or band and you want to be in school face-to-face, you choose option A.
Okay, let's go back to option B. A lot of great information was released by the school system, but of course questions came up, specific questions, and I know you've been making the rounds trying to address those specific questions this morning with other interviews and then coming on this show. So let's look at option B, if we could, which is the virtual school. How will that look for a student at home? Will they be online or be expected to be online for the first period, second period, third period, like they would a normal school day?
Yes, they have a class schedule.
Okay.
And they will have weekly assignments. And if it takes them 5 days to do their weekly assignments, that's fine.
Okay.
If it takes them 3 days and they want to finish early, as long as they complete those weekly assignments and don't get behind week by week, then it can be called self-paced, but we're reluctant to use the word self-paced because it's really not. It is by week, but not in total.
Only to an extent.
Right.
Yeah.
So the platform is Schoology, and so Schools PLP is the curriculum, and it feeds into Schoology, and our students have never done that before. So what we're going to do in option A and option B is introduce all of the students in Trussville City Schools to Schoology.
Right.
So the question is, why are we doing that in option A? Well, in case of a school closure or a 50% capacity rule where we have to stagger days, our students in option A will already be familiar with how to tap into Schoology so they can access their classroom curriculum. But there's no wrong choice for parents, because the curriculum in option A, B, and C is Schools PLP.
Okay, so every student is going to be moving along at the same pace, whether they're in the classroom or at home.
That's so important, yes. That's an equity issue.
Right.
Yes.
And I guess I'm still not, the question that I was trying to get through to be, and I don't know if I asked it very well, will a student on virtual learning be in front of a camera and in front of a teacher like a student sitting in a classroom each day?
No, it is mostly an online, virtual, remote learning site.
Okay.
But every student in option B will have a Trussville City Schools teacher assigned to them. And if the teacher needs to zoom in or even needs a face-to-face in school, the virtual teachers will be in a classroom in a school,
okay,
and the student will know where to find them.
And what kind of access will the student have to that teacher on any given day? Will there be a set time that they know they can check in and talk to that teacher, or will they be able to access them as needed?
Absolutely. The teachers will have office hours. It almost feels like a university setting.
Okay.
Where the teacher is teaching online, Zooming with other students, and has office hours available to answer any questions through chat or through email. Teachers can also use Google Classroom like they have before inside of this PLP platform.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about option C. And some of the questions I'm going to ask you came directly from our readers on social media. You've seen a lot of these same questions, and I know a lot of them have come directly to you at the board. Do we have a set schedule yet for students in option C who will come to school for certain enrichment programs and extracurricular programs? Do we have a time schedule on that yet, or will that roll out later this summer?
That will roll out later.
Okay.
We do not have schedules in place, but if they want to think about last year and think about what time choral music occurred, and a high school student wants to come in for choral music, then they'll know that they'll have to be at the high school at that scheduled time.
Okay.
Same for band.
And I guess it's kind of like anticipating your school schedule coming out later in the summer anyway, which is what we would typically all be waiting on right now as parents. So that it's not really surprising that that's not out there on the table right now.
That's right. The first thing we have to do is get the student schedule, and then we'll know how to schedule the option C classes or electives.
Okay. And you've addressed the Schoology program already a little bit. Is that the program that the state purchased?
The state purchased the curriculum, and the name of that curriculum is Schools PLP.
Okay.
And you can Google Schools PLP and see the curriculum for yourself.
All right.
And everything that's offered in Trussville City Schools will be offered through Schools PLP and vice versa. We're just matching up our curriculum. And then Schoology is the way the students access Schools PLP.
Okay, one of the other questions from our readers was involving Chromebooks. Do students who select option B, will they receive a Chromebook to use at home?
The students still have their Chromebooks from last spring. So they can keep their Chromebook, and if they're on option B, they don't have to turn that Chromebook in to be sanitized and reissued to someone else.
Just keep it and keep charging it and keep using it. Okay, so another question, is there a chance these things will be tweaked when we get updates from health officials? You and I talked about this before we came on the air. Do you want to go ahead and address that?
We absolutely have to comply with health orders, and we've tried to create a good plan and insert a backup plan in option A. And as those health orders change, we have to change, and that is if they change. We have no way of knowing.
Right. Which leads us to another question that you have no doubt heard, and we've certainly heard here. Why are we not requiring the students that do choose option A? Why are we not requiring them to? I know you're urging them to wear a mask, and that we're being safe there. But a lot of parents have asked, why is that not required? And you've got a reason for that.
Well, there are two questions embedded in your question. Okay. One is, my child's not coming to school if they have to wear a mask. Do they have to wear a mask? And the other is, my child's not coming to school unless everyone wears a mask. So we have to then defer to the State Department of Education and find out what's in the roadmap, because it's the best thing to do is to go by what the State Department recommends. And today they recommend that we encourage everyone wearing a mask,
sure,
but we don't require it. And that has gone fairly deep. The American Academy of Pediatrics has weighed in on that to say that young children should not be required to wear a mask because that is traumatizing to some students. And then if you want to run an experiment and wear a mask all day, every day from 8 to 3, go ahead and do that and see how that feels and what that does to your enthusiasm for learning and what that does for you being in school and socializing. So the middle of the road might be to wear a mask in common areas and on buses, and we're waiting to see if there are directives that come out for masks being required on buses or in hallways and common areas. And if that comes out as a requirement, we'll probably have a coolest mask contest and see who's got the coolest mask, and encourage the students to have fun with it and enjoy it and wear their mask as required in hallways and or on buses.
Dr. Neill, let's go back a little bit to when all this began unfolding, and the first announcement came out from Trussville City Schools that students would come back to class for Thursday and Friday, and then school would dismiss the week before spring break, I believe it was at that point. And then that changed to students will not come back at all, and they were allowed to come and clean their lockers out. Our teachers, who in my opinion are some of the biggest heroes throughout all of this, the teachers in Trussville, Leeds, Moody, Clay, Pinson, all these cities that we cover, really did heroic work to create an online curriculum to finish the school year on. In all your years of education, have you seen anything like what we've gone through?
I have never seen anything like it in my life. It was a mad dash to get it right. And it was a juggling act that we had never done before, but we had the resources we needed to do it. And we had already surveyed parents about who needed a Chromebook, who needed a hotspot on a Chromebook, and then how to reach parents who didn't have internet at all to ask the question. And we did find out that everyone has a telephone. we do know that. Well, so we were able to reach people without internet by phone.
I know, just to pull that off in the short period of time that educators had an opportunity to do that was an amazing feat. I also know from talking to a lot of educators that the teachers walked away saying, yeah, we're really proud of what we were able to accomplish, but we need to be better at this. It's got to be improved if we go through it again, or if we go through a more prolonged school year having to deal with students online. Do you feel like the plan going into this school year is going to be better than it was in the spring?
I do. We have training in July already for the school's PLP curriculum and how that matches up with the Trussville City Schools curriculum as it exists. And it's not going to be that big of a shift, but it's much more comprehensive, because quite honestly, in March, we were 3/4 of the year finished. And we had 1/4 of the year to meet some critical standards And we did have 7 weeks, which was plenty of time to meet the critical standards that were left in the curriculum. And when you start a school year with all of the standards in front of you, it's quite different than it was last spring. It's much more rigorous.
Do you anticipate additional surveys for the parents in regard to all this? Or is the school going to continue to monitor kind of where the parents are leaning and where they're trending?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because today we're starting to populate a new area of our website at www.trussvillecityschools.com. You click on the Schools Reopening tab, and then there's a drop box, and we'll finish that by the end of the business day today, a drop box for frequently asked questions.
Okay.
And we invite the parents to ask us questions, and we've also invited the parents to contact their school principal for specific questions to their child's school. And as we work out the details over the next 5 weeks, we anticipate that some of the parent questions will shape our answers and shape the details. So the questions are really getting drilled down to specific family dynamics and specific subgroups like band and choir and special ed and those who need transportation. So the master plan has been unveiled, and it's very general to everyone. And then for parents who have specific questions about those electives and subgroups, that's where we are. We're drilling it down.
And just one final question before we go, and you've actually already addressed this question earlier, but I wanted to reiterate it for some people who may have missed your video that came out last week. If a student starts with option A, going to school, and just at some point they're not comfortable doing that anymore, and they want to swap to option B as the school year is going, what are the rules there?
Well, first they'll need to contact their school principal, because they'll be on a school roster somewhere, option A or option B. And really we'll have to handle that on a case-by-case basis. But for the general release, we've asked parents who don't have COVID-19 issues behind that question to wait until the trimester at elementary school and wait until the semester at the high school and middle school.
So if you want to make that swap, do it at the end of a grading period.
That's right.
When you can make a clean
For all
move.
the right reasons,
Right,
yes.
right. Before I let you go, I do have a school parent sitting next to me. I'm going to look at her and say, do you have anything you'd like me to ask?
So, in the video, you specifically encourage people with kindergartners to send theirs. What's the reason behind that?
That's a good question.
Well, the kindergarten group is our most special group. You know, we're the Trussville Huskies, and those are our husky pups. And we want all of our pups, all of our puppies to come to school. We need to teach them so many things about the letters of the alphabet and their numbers, how to sneeze into their elbow. We want to develop them socially as much as we can before they switch out of option A. And we want to teach them, first and foremost, what a Chromebook is and how to turn on a Chromebook and how to operate a Chromebook before we turn them loose. So I would strongly recommend that for kindergartners, they start in option A or defer to option A at some point during the year, because they don't know how to work an online program yet, unless they have a great learning coach. Let me talk about learning coaches for just a minute. We've asked that students identify themselves as either independent learners or families identify a learning coach, because we need for the virtual teacher to be able to contact the learning coach for our younger students who can't really answer the phone and talk to the teacher about any deficits they might have in the online curriculum.
So a lot of the reason for having the kindergartners there is the socialization, getting them used to the school atmosphere and environment.
It is,
okay.
Of course.
I don't have any more questions. Do you guys?
No, I think so. Well, yeah. So the learning coach, when you say learning coach, you mean parent, though, or I mean, ideally, we're
Could
talking
be a grandparent.
Yeah, or somebody that's just going to be engaged in that education on a daily basis.
Yeah, whoever's in the household that's going to kind of be overseeing the educational aspect. In your case, that'll probably be Kinley because you'll shift everything to her.
That's not true.
She's got the
That's
teaching.
ridiculous.
She's got the teaching
She's got the
certificate.
teaching degree.
Kinley's going to end up with the entire.
It could be a sibling who is in college doing online college work.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, and that's interesting because I have 2 children 20 years apart.
Yeah.
This was a few years ago, there was a math terminology that popped up on the computer that I had never heard. My wife, with all the education degrees, had never heard, but our 30-something-year-old son knew exactly what it was and was able to explain it to his sister who's 20 years younger. So sometimes there's just that generational gap that's there.
No, I think all that was very helpful.
Yeah. Dr. Neill, thank you so much for giving of your time and coming in here today and your patience. I'm going to reserve the right to call you back in because as this progresses, we talked about this before it came on. I'm not really confident that we make it through the school year without a school shutdown. I know you're trying to keep a positive mental attitude and go forward, but I've got a feeling we may be visiting again so you can share additional information.
Whatever it is, we'll be ready, and there is no wrong option. I just encourage families to look at their own family and household dynamic and choose the option that's best for them.
That's right. What works for your family, there's
That's right.
something on the menu for you, right?
That's right.
We've got a lot of other things to brag about in education, and we're going to go over to Erica and Brandon right now and let them share some pretty good news from our college kids.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
So
Go
I've
ahead.
been doing these stories lately on the dean's list and the president's list, and it's almost impossible to get them all done at once.
It's
So I'm getting a lot of
names.
parents say, what about this school? What about this school? Okay, we'll get there. But definitely keep sending stuff to me at news
Right.
at TrussvilleTribune.com. Just be patient. They're not all going to be in the paper in the same week, that sort of thing. But we do have a lot to be proud of here in Trussville, like the Deans and Presidents list for University of Alabama this year,
Right.
this spring.
And it looks like so far you've got University of Alabama, Dean's listed Jacksonville State listed, and you've got already up UAH is
Oh
list
yeah,
from
we
Trussville.
probably have about 6 or 7 different ones up.
Okay.
So we're very proud of these students, and a lot of these are going to be printed in our papers over the next few weeks.
Okay.
So you know, you don't always get your name in the paper, but the next few weeks and last week, we had a lot of these students' names in there. So just be sure to grab your copy of the Trussville Tribune, because we're just as proud of y'all, you know.
That's right. That's right. And you can find it all at TrussvilleTribune.com.
Yeah, and
for
I have
sure.
something else that I was going to show everybody. We have a live look right now from Main Street in Trussville. So this is a look at the road work that they're doing. We told you about this at the beginning of the show. We've been sharing it on our Facebook page. We have this story and a map showing exactly, let me get to the map to show you guys where these detours are going to be. As you can see, the main intersection in downtown Trussville, which is Chalkville Road and Main Street, they are redoing that whole area. They're putting in the plaza area, they're going to just spice it up a little bit, spruce it up, I guess is the better word. But they have all these detours that are already set up. You can look at this map to see, and there's some changes that'll be happening. The whole work's supposed to take about a month, but you know, with weather or whatever, it might be longer than that. But there'll be some changes, so y'all can look at the story on Trussville Tribune to get that. But here's what they're doing in the intersection right now.
I love the live look. That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is a Facebook Live. So, yeah, it looks like traffic's moving pretty good right now. And like we said earlier, we haven't personally had any major issues with this, but hopefully it'll stay that way. I am curious to see what's going to happen around 5 o'clock today.
Yeah, and today
Hopefully I won't see
will
it.
be a good test for sure.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not going to be sitting out there, actually. Y'all let me know.
Okay, we will. We'll let you know. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about local elections. We've got some news out of Center Point and some news out of Trussville. So we'll be back in a few minutes.
Have you been to Discount Warehouse lately? New electronics, brand name makeup, and bedding arrive daily. Follow their Facebook page to find out about special sales on clothing, tools, and fireworks. Discount Warehouse, where you will never pay retail price.
I'm Drew Lawley, General Manager at Courtesy Buick GMC. Come see us at Courtesy, where we have over 300 vehicles to choose from, including GMCs, Buicks, and certified pre-owned vehicles. Come see us at Courtesy or check us out at courtesybirmingham.com. Proud supporter of our area high school teams.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about local elections. In
Yay.
Center Point, we've got 3 candidates already for mayor. Let's talk about the incumbent, Center Point Mayor Tom Henderson, who has been the only mayor of Center Point
Ever
since they became a city. He has decided to run again, so he's put his name in the hat.
There were rumors he was going to retire, and he even told me he was thinking about it.
But changed his mind, I guess.
Yep, he changed his mind. He just wants to continue.
Right.
He's going to be challenged by a sitting city councilman and a Birmingham police officer who is a Center Point resident.
Right.
Have both also announced. I don't have their names, but Erica probably.
I do.
The council member is Bobby Scott. This is him on your screen. He is ending his first term as a council member and said he just really enjoyed it. He's never been into politics, but he now is wanting to run for mayor because he feels like there's just more he can do. He likes to focus on children, on the youth, so that's really cool. And then here's the Birmingham police officer, Frederick Burks. He's lived in Center Point, I think he said about 20-something years. And so he's been living in Center Point since before it was a city, so he's seen a lot of changes in the area, and he says, you know, he just thinks there needs to be a lot more changes. And he is the one candidate out of all 3 that says he wants a police department in Center Point. The Bobby Scott, the council member, he was saying, we have done studies in the past to see if it was feasible, and at some points it hasn't been, but you know, it might be now, so we need to relook at it.
Right.
Right now, who polices
Mayor
it?
Henderson said it's not feasible.
Is Jefferson County, do they police Center Point for them?
Yes, they have
That's what I
6
thought.
contract deputies in Center Point, plus the regular deputies. The DOJ did a report on Center Point crime.
Yeah, we
because-
talked about that a couple
yeah,
weeks ago.
Right.
What was,
The city wanted them to. So they came in and did a report, and they had suggestions, and one of those were don't just use the contract deputies for ordinances, but also other crimes that are committed in the area. So they're looking at that, and they're just...
But isn't that what the deputies already do?
No, well, originally the deputies in Center Point were contracted to focus on ordinances for the city.
Okay.
The other deputies that work in Center Point would be, you know, just
Your
Called in
typical
for a
run of
crime.
the mill, like
Right.
robbery
There might
or
be a
something like that.
couple or three in the area at a
Right.
time. You never know. But they want community policing. They think that's important. And I think every candidate mentioned the fact that you don't see a lot of deputies in neighborhoods. And so that's something they're working on to improve. They want to see them in the neighborhoods, not just on Center Point Parkway, but, you know, everywhere. So, I mean, we're excited about this election season. So we've just been talking to everybody, but we have these stories on TrussvilleTribune.com. All you have to do is search Center Point, and all three of these will show up. So the election's August 22nd.
Yeah, if you're in Center Point, definitely take a minute and read those great stories that they've put together about these three gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
sure.
this, you know, this will continue. We've mentioned this before. All 8 of our cities are going into municipal elections, which means all 8 cities are going to elect a mayor and 5 council spots. Tomorrow is the first day that you can pick up papers to file for municipal elections at your local city hall.
Tomorrow's July 7th already?
Yeah, tomorrow's July 7th. You can pick up your papers to file. You'll pick that up with the city clerk at your city hall if you want to run for mayor or council of Trussville, Clay, Pinson, Argo, Springville, Center Point, Leeds, or Moody. It's coming up. So it's getting interesting already.
It is. So let's turn to Trussville, where
Yeah.
we've got 3 people already running for city council seats.
Right.
So we'll start with Ben Short, who is some of you probably know, is a Trussville police detective. And he also owns, with his wife, Amanda, they own Trussville to Go.
Right.
Most of us have used that several times. And he's running for city council, seat 3,
Seat 3.
which is an open seat by Jeff Freeman.
Right. Jeff Freeman will not seek re-election, so it is open. We've had one other candidate that has announced for that same seat.
Right.
Jamie Melton Anderson. Jamie is retired military.
Well,
Or-
she's
reserves.
Yes,
Reserve.
she's Air Force Reserve. She's a lieutenant colonel.
Right. And a lot of people will connect her to her dad, the former mayor, longtime mayor of Trussville,
Right.
Gene Melton. It's his daughter. So she's announced for that same seat. I wouldn't be shocked at being an open seat if we see
Somebody else.
announce for that as well. Then we ran the announcement for Lisa Bright last week. She is announced for City Council place number 5, seat 5, which is currently held by Dr. Zach Steele.
Okay.
He's just completing his first term in that seat. He has not publicly announced whether or not he's seeking re-election, but I can tell you I anticipate that he probably will.
Okay. And we don't know yet if there's going to be any other open seats. We don't, because nobody
We haven't
said.
had anyone else say they weren't rerunning.
No.
Okay.
So only Jeff Freeman announced that he was not rerunning. And we've already got a little bit of a competitive situation. Obviously, we talked about Center Point earlier, but we've the mayor's race in Pinson. You know, we talked about Tom Henderson as the only mayor Center Point has ever had. Hoyt Sanders is the only mayor Pinson has ever had. He is seeking re-election for that office. He is being challenged by former city councilman Joe Cochran.
Right. And Joe ran last time against Hoyt.
Against Hoyt, and Hoyt held on to his seat.
That's right.
And I have already spoken to both of them too and have
And
their
we've talked-
stories on.
Yes, we've
yeah.
talked about them
both
on
of
the
those
show.
stories are up.
So you can see kind of like on our website what they're looking for, what they
Yeah.
want, what they think they can do different. You know, we just want to talk to every one of these candidates to make sure we cross all our T's and
Right.
dot all our I's.
That if you are a mayor, sitting mayor, or a city council person in any of our 8 cities and you are seeking re-election, you're going to need to send us an announcement and let us know that. You can send that to news@TrussvilleTribune.com. We're not going to take it upon ourselves to put it in the paper if you're not, or if we don't hear from you. So please let us know if you've already made up your mind. And then anybody else who qualifies and is ready to send an announcement, that same address, news@TrussvilleTribune.com. And this is kind of your opportunity for a little free exposure.
right.
We always run the article, write an article about people when they announce to run. We should mention, we had one person that announced in Trussville that has already pulled out and said they're not running.
Oh, yeah.
We had a
Shay
story about Shane Shelnut.
And that was in the place 3 seat where now Jamie and Ben are
Right.
running.
And that created a domino effect. When Shane pulled out, Ben Short was planning to run for another seat. But when Shelnut pulled out, Short
slid
said he
over.
had preferred to run for the open seat, but it was already getting a little crowded. So he picked another one, but now he is shifted over to the open seat.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So a lot of news there.
We got a lot going on, and you and I are going to be very busy over the
That's
next
right.
6 weeks.
So be interesting.
So all three of us are going to be very busy.
I was like, I'll be busy too.
Yeah, we are. We're all going to be busy.
Before we get out, tell everybody about your last story, The Beat Goes On.
Oh yeah, I forgot. So I told y'all earlier that I like to do the positive stories a lot. I did one, was this last week when I did the Beat Goes On story? Do you remember, Scott?
Yes, I do.
I think that is right, yeah.
Okay. So there's a man in Springville, and he used to be a firefighter, but he's retired. And his wife has a lot of history in healthcare, so, you know, they raise their kids to know how to do CPR. Their son, their 15-year-old son, was part of the Civil Air Patrol in Springville, and they taught them CPR. Well, the first time he ever had to use that, the 15-year-old, was June 24th. His dad had a heart attack at their house. Mm-hmm. Here's the story. The beat goes on. Springville man's family saves his life. I mean, that is truly what happened to the McAdams family. Stan McAdams is the retired firefighter I was telling you about. There he is, and there's his wife. They have an incredible story. This is terrifying. He's not elderly or anything, as you can see. He just had a heart attack.
Looks a lot younger than me.
I think he's younger than my parents. So, yeah, he's younger than you.
She made no fuss about
I think that was a shot.
I think it
Maybe,
was too.
well, I don't think a whole lot of people are younger than you, but probably.
I am. I'm younger than you.
Yeah, and you never let me forget that.
I'm just kidding. I think a lot. No, I'm just. Okay, so you can read this story on TrussvilleTribune.com. It's definitely uplifting, inspirational. He survived the heart attack only because of the actions that his 15-year-old son.
It is incredible.
I mean,
That's a great story.
It is.
it gives me chills.
A lot of interesting news out of Springville.
And the interesting thing about this story, too, is that he's a drummer. He's in 3 different bands. So the beat of his music is like his life, you know? Like that's really his passion. And so the fact that his heart stopped beating for him, you know, he just really wants to get back to those drums and keep on keeping on.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants to normalize after something like that.
But he's definitely going to have a long road ahead, so we're praying for him to get through his cardiac rehab and all that.
So check that out at TrussvilleTribune.com for sure.
Yes.
So, all right.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts, anybody?
I've always got final thoughts. Do y'all have anything?
I do. Do
Go
you?
ahead.
I do. I'll go last. Mine's light.
What you got?
yours is
Audio
light.
visual over there for yours?
No, I don't
She
have
probably
any
does.
audio
She's in the
anything today.
fancy.
Yeah, I know.
Technical
She always
issues.
gooses hers up, makes us look
I
bad.
know it. I'll
Well,
go. Y'all
what
want me to
have
go?
you got? Yes.
Well, so, you know, I don't talk on social media a lot, but I do watch social media a lot and I read it. And ever since the school plans have dropped, I've just seen. So I think that the school debate is just already out of control. Mm-hmm. And I think that people need to, we as a community, not just Trussville, but everybody, needs to try to remember as people make school decisions that everybody's making different decisions for different reasons.
That's right.
Different people's families are risk averse, maybe more risk averse, have to be than others, than somebody else's family. Mm-hmm. Different people have work situations. There's just so much that plays in that this is going to be an individual family.
That's right.
Decision to make. It's very difficult for all of us. I know, you know, we talked about, I'm very overwhelmed with the decision personally. But I was disappointed to see the face mask debate get so out of control between people. Who's sending their kids to school in a face mask, who refuses. And all that will filter down to children. So let's just try to be kind. And whatever decision you make, just know that everybody's making the right decision for their family.
Absolutely.
You know, and let's be kind and let's pass that on to our kids and just remember that, you know, everybody's just got to do what's right for them, what they think's right. And I just don't want to see us judge each other based on who's wearing a face mask and who's not. And the other thing that's not gotten a lot of attention out of the American Academy of Pediatrics study is that the doctors in there mentioned the dramatic effect of this pandemic on women and mothers. And I feel like sometimes women and mothers, we don't do a good job of supporting each other in our different roles, whether we're at home, whether we're working, whether we're part-time, whether we work at the church, whatever it is. This has been hard on us because we carried the most burden, not all the burden.
No, I don't,
but a
I'm not
great
going to
amount
argue
of
with
the
you on
burden
that.
with
Not at
kids
all.
and their schedules. And we need to support each other no
Right.
matter what we're doing. I want to be supportive of my friends and my neighbors and whatever decisions they have to make for their family. I want to be their cheerleader, and I don't want us to judge each other. I even saw somebody comment on Facebook this weekend that they thought they may end up, maybe they need to put kids in masks in one class and kids who won't wear masks in another class. That's crazy. I mean, that's teaching terrible things to your children, I think. Let's just be kind and respectful to everybody's decision, no matter what their decision is.
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
Listen, that's such a good final thought, I don't want to even do one. I mean, that honestly, that is so good. That's just the,
I think it's a lot of stuff is heavy.
The truth.
It's
you know,
heavy.
Dr. Neill threw something out there, and I've heard from a lot of parents, friends of mine, I respect them, that really think masks should be required by the students. I'd only heard their side of it.
Right.
Okay, and I got that. But Dr. Neill brought another side to it. And there are students who just can't wear a mask all day. It's just not going to work for them. But the point you made, there is an option for everybody. If the mask not being mandatory is important to you, then there are two other options you can look at.
Right.
And nobody's wrong.
Yes, I thought she's
wrong.
doing a great job of communicating that. There's no wrong choice. Nobody's wrong.
Right.
You have to make the decision based on what's happening in your family. Just like some people have really high-risk people living in their homes.
That's right.
Others don't.
So,
There's
some are caregivers to elderly family
Right.
members, and there are so many factors. Nobody's wrong. Instead of judging or building your case, maybe you could reach out to neighbors and friends and see if they need help implementing whatever plan they choose.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you know you may have a parent that wants option C and needs help getting their kids back and forth for the enrichment, and stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's just do everything we can to help each other. And I don't want to add to what you said. It was just too good.
Well,
and I hope everybody
it's going to be a hard
listens.
year for everybody.
It is. It's going to be difficult. Erica?
Well, I
Take
mean,
us out
I
on the
want to add to
positive
it
here.
because I feel like the part where you said be kind, like my final thought's not about that, but I always say, you know, just be kind. And that reminds me of our Facebook commenting, you know, on our page, in any page really, any public page. People are just really not listening to the other side, and we all need to open our minds to other people and try to understand their sides and stop being hateful.
I agree.
I mean, it's just that simple.
It is.
Like,
Life's
what's the
too
point?
short.
Does it make you feel better to be
Life's too
nasty?
short.
You know, because it doesn't make you look better.
No, let's just be
Makes you look
supportive of
worse.
everybody's situation.
And be a good example to your children. Like, it's not a good example to set to go irate on somebody on Facebook.
Yeah, if there were
It
any
doesn't
point
matter.
I would make, that would be your kids are going to take their cue from you,
And they're going to take it to school.
yeah,
Let's not
they're
reproduce that.
going to share it with their friends. They're going to take it out on teachers, or teachers are going to benefit from the attitude you send your kids to school with.
Right.
But they are going to take their cue from you, and if they hear a lot of negativity coming from you, they're going to be negative about it.
And that's not just about school stuff. That's about all the stuff that's happening in our world right now.
That's life in general. I used
You
to.
can't even
Crazy
post a story about a 100-year-old birthday party without somebody complaining or saying something negative. And I just I don't have the nerve for that anymore.
Go
I'm
back
about
to
to start
what your
telling
mama
people.
taught you. If you can't say something nice.
I'm going to tell y'all what my
Say
mama
anything.
taught me. Somebody's about to laugh.
Yeah, that applies to a lot of stuff. I was very fortunate. I grew up with parents that would not listen to me talk bad about a coach
Right.
in sports. They wouldn't tolerate it. And I know that there were probably situations they didn't particularly like what the coach was doing, but I never heard negativity from my parents about a coach. So I grew up with a respect for that authority and for our coaches, and it changed. It affected the attitude I had as a player. When my son came along as a former high school basketball coach, I saw him play for some people, and I'm thinking, you know, what are they doing? What are they doing? But he never heard that from me. He never heard anything but positive reinforcement, because I didn't want to be a crutch. I didn't want to create a crutch. Same thing applies to school. Don't talk bad about your teachers, your administrators, your kids, or even if you're not saying it in front of them, they're going to pick up on it.
Oh, they do.
They will pick up on it. So do your children a favor and just be very positive about whatever you do.
Absolutely. Everything we got.
What you got?
I just want to put my mom on blast.
Say, I knew she'd have a picture.
Look
Look at that fish.
Look what she's doing today.
Aw.
So they're fishing, my mom and dad, Bonnie and Wendell Huddleston. They're in Wedowee, Alabama. If anybody hasn't been to Wedowee, it's a really wonderful, serene, amazing, quiet place to go. I go a lot on Google Earth when I'm at home writing stories and I need a break.
Oh, that's nice.
I get on Google Earth and I go to Wedowee, you know. But she's an amazing, incredible woman. I can't tell her whole story, but she's a 2-time cancer survivor. Incredible human being, and she just sent me this picture as I'm at work of her fishing.
How many of those does she have to catch to feed us all?
She actually could probably just take that one and make a major feast. I'm telling you, she's a good cook. So
that was a good note to end.
It's not Mother's Day or anything. I just got that picture in the middle of all this.
It's always okay to recognize your mom.
I miss those good old-fashioned fish fries. You know, do you remember as kids, somebody was always having a fish fry.
Yeah.
You never see that anymore.
Well, maybe you should do one.
I don't cook fish.
I don't eat
I just
fish.
eat it.
You can learn.
He's a Boston butt cooker. Okay, that's all we've got today. Scott's a butt cooker. That's funny.
I'm a butt cooker.
I'm going to say that.
Butt from his butt, so smoke them all the time.
That's right. That's all we've got today. We'll be back next week, as always, with Tribune Unscripted. See you then.